And then I realized, oh man, my physical health's suffering. And as a result, not only was my physical health suffering, that's also when I started to mention to you and obviously became more comfortable talking about my anxiety.
One of the 4 pillars of health is psychological health. Part of the concept of the programs is that we actually have to actively work on our psychological health to make it more positive than negative. Welcome to the Positive Medicine Podcast. Come and join me, hear the amazing Brodie Reed. I've got to say that because he's behind the camera right now. Brodie is Positive Medicine's videographer. Come and hear about the journey that he and I have been on together over the last 4 years, but particularly the journey he has been on to find whole person health and healing. So, how long have we been doing this, Brodie?
What are we, 2024, so we're coming up, it has to be, 4 years, right? More than?
Wow. It's around that,
It's
isn't
around
it?
there, yeah.
And who'd have thought at the start of all this journey together that we'd be here now,
Having a conversation, talking.
both on the other side of the camera,
Yeah.
as opposed to how we started, which
Very
was you on the other side of the camera and me doing all the talking.
You doing all the talking? Yeah, no, it was an interesting start, wasn't it? Because we were over on the Crown Range, and I can't remember who we were filming. We were filming somebody, like, look, I need to film some stuff.
It was Fulton Hogan.
Was it for Fulton Hogan?
Yes.
There we go.
Yes.
You're like, okay, we need to film some stuff. And I'm like, all right, let's catch up and let's meet up. And then, man, we've come a long way since then as well. From filming downstairs here with a backdrop to, goodness, we've filmed everywhere now, really, haven't we?
Yeah. I actually particularly enjoy filming down by the lake.
Yes. Well, it's beautiful. And
Yeah,
it's
some great settings amidst the pines and willow trees. But actually, for a podcast setting, this is fine. This is perfect.
I'm happy here.
Yeah, cool.
I'm nice and warm too.
Cool.
Which, not great if it's outside and I'm cold.
I know, yeah. It's just
I'm sure you can agree
that
with
time
that.
of year as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, yeah, we're going into autumn now, so otherwise I'm going to freeze if I'm outside. Yeah.
So, this is all about you, Brodie, which again is a change of emphasis.
It is.
Previously, it's all been about the message that I've been trying to get out into the world about positive medicine. And of course, your job was only to capture that message and to help me disseminate it.
Totally.
And now you're on the other side of the camera. Why don't you just share why that actually is, why that's happened?
For sure. Well, yeah, it's definitely a different part to be on the other side of the camera. I'm much more comfortable over there. But being over here, we got here because, well, starting off, we've filmed everything from every part that positive medicine has been going through, every course and everything.
Yeah.
I've been behind the camera, and then I've been behind the screen editing it for goodness knows how many. I actually don't know how many hundreds of hours I have probably spent hearing your voice, hearing your message over and over. Not a bad thing, by the way. But it's then it got to the point, probably, what would we say, a year in maybe, where subconsciously, somehow, after listening over and over, your messages actually got through to me without me actually trying. So I never listened to the courses being like, I'm going to learn from this, I'm going to actually find something valuable. I'm like, okay, this is work, this is David, like, cool, we'll get this sorted, get this to him, edited, boom, boom, boom. And then it was like, oh wow, actually, start to recognize these things that are changing in the way I think about things, the way that things occur to me in terms of like my body.
And that was the point for me, because I never knew that any of this was happening until I think maybe we hadn't filmed any programs for a few weeks. And you arrived at the door and Lucy, my golden retriever, was just bounding all over you.
Oh,
and I just went, well, Brodie, you're looking great.
Yeah, that was a big change up.
And you did.
Well, I switched everything up. I went from being, I would call myself a lazy human being, just solely, not necessarily in my work ethic, but just in terms of how I treated myself. I never took the time out of my day to care about what I was eating. I never took the time out of my day to care about the exercise I was doing. I was not doing any of this stuff, and as a result, not only did my physical health suffer, and I looked like I did, which was round and...
Yeah, but I never saw that, Brody. I never saw you as round. I mean, you're a tall guy, and you were definitely a big guy, but you carried it. But yeah, my goodness, you changed. And
fairly quickly too.
Yeah, and you started to tell me some of the activities that you were doing and some of the challenges that you were giving yourself. Yeah.
Yeah, well, we did, I started off with doing, I can't remember the exact order of doing things, but I started off with like a sort of keto-y diet. And then I also went off that one pretty quickly and went no sugar.
Yeah,
Now,
I
no
remember
sugar
you
is the
doing that.
Biggest one that I did.
Yeah.
And not only did I do no sugar,
But it was no hidden sugar as well, wasn't it?
so it was no hidden sugar, but it was also no natural sugar, which wasn't great. I did that for 3 weeks, and I can't even explain how faint and stuff I found. It was awful. I was like, I'm doing everything wrong. And so I introduced fruit again, and well, that was a lifesaver. Who would have known? Fruit was good. So I did that, and then I'd also started gymming pretty much every day, if not 5 days a week or so.
Yeah.
And I had no idea what I was doing in the gym. I wasn't going there for bodybuilding. I was just going there to train and burn fat, essentially, because I figured this is my issue. And yeah, so I dropped 10 kg in, I think it was 3 months doing no sugar and gymming, which was a substantial amount to drop very quickly. And then over the next, what are we talking, over the next 9 months, I lost a further 20 kg. So it was 30 kg. I went from 110 to 80.
Yeah.
And whether or not that's a healthy thing to do, I don't know. But for every aspect of my life, it's been the best thing I've ever done. And that, linking it back to where we were coming from before, that all came from the subconscious things that I was recognizing within the courses back when we were filming them, back when I was editing them. And then I realized, oh man, my physical health's suffering. And as a result, not only was my physical health suffering, that's also when I started to mention to you and obviously became a lot closer with you and became more comfortable talking about my anxiety. And I figured my anxiety...
And I never knew. I had
I'm great at hiding
no
it.
idea.
Great at hiding it.
Yeah,
And
well,
I can still...
and I can well imagine that a lot of people are. And to be
Yes.
honest, I mean, I've had challenges with anxiety and self-doubt and imposter syndrome
Yep.
as well. And I'm really good at hiding it too. And I think
Totally.
one of the things we need to be really clear about is that the journey we've both been on is a very human journey. It's a very common journey.
Yep.
And I have so much respect for the way that you went into your transition, particularly from my point of view around your physical health.
Yeah.
But it was a long time before you acknowledged to me that you'd been having challenges with your mental health.
Absolutely.
And anxiety. And of course, one of the 4 pillars of health is psychological health. And part of the concept of the programs is that we actually have to actively work on our psychological health to make it more positive than negative.
Well, that was another big change that I had to work through was, and aspects of it still come out now, like where I'm like, oh, I was round, I was like this big guy. Like there just has to be a point of like, I was not accepting of like my situation that I got myself into, and so obviously I like worked to fix it, and like now even I still go back to those default settings of like, that was a terrible time and whatnot, but. I don't even know where I was going with that one, but it was more on the side of like the negative thoughts and versus like your positive thoughts. And I was more clouded with negative thoughts then versus now where I can become accepting of the state that I'm in, whatever it is, whether that's my physical, emotional, psychological relationship, whatever it is, I can accept it and then actually think about a positive outcome and then action that positive outcome, which has taken years to get to. It's not just something that you can
So
switch.
I'm just going to pick up on something. You mentioned you lost 30 kgs in 9 months.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that was a healthy thing to do. I'm going to ask it, to what extent do you think maybe your negative self-image and negative aspects of your mental health contributed to your focus on losing all that weight?
Probably for the first part, a lot. I channeled probably a lot of that call it dark mentality as such, into this focus of losing weight and putting all my time and energy into that. I'm a very obsessive person in terms of like, if I want to do something, I'm going to do it no matter what the issue is for myself. If it's bad for me, if it's good for me, I don't care. If I want it, I'll do it. And that was the same with like losing, 30 kg over the period of 9 to 12 months, whatever it was. I would say a lot of it did come down to, being in an anxious state a lot of the time and it becoming an escape for me. So and that again is almost a way of me not accepting it and just trying to find a way to escape it.
Yeah.
And that would be something that I'd say even just recently, probably in the past 6 months, I've come into more terms with, which is the word acceptance of like becoming accepting of the state that I'm in, becoming accepting of like where I am, you are where you are. I can't even explain to you how many times I like tell myself that, and that's saying that you've said in your courses, and it's stuck with me. And again, I've never taken your courses. I've just created them.
You have taken my courses.
I've taken them, but I've never
you've done them more than anybody else.
That is so true.
Yeah, and that acceptance, that self-acceptance, and no judgment.
Yep.
That's a hard lesson to learn because we are our own worst judges, our own worst critics.
Especially with physical health, I would say.
Yeah, I think that's a great
Because I think
point.
you can look at yourself even in a really good state. Like now I can look at myself.
Yeah.
And without comparing myself back to me 4 years ago, I can be like, oh, I'm not quite, quite how I want to be. I'm not quite where like I want my body to be. It doesn't quite look as good as it could. And then all I got to do is pull up a photo of myself from 4 years ago and be like, oh my, okay, I see exactly where I've come from. Yeah. My body is looking a lot better, but I think when you can physically see something, albeit your physical body, right?
Yeah.
It's much harder for you to actually accept that because it is a physical truth that you can see, touch, feel, everything to do with it. Whereas like, I think the other 3 pillars are almost, I don't know, I'd almost say like easier to come into acceptance with because they're not like a physical thing.
Yeah,
That makes
not
sense.
it's not as obvious
No.
to you when you look in the mirror. I think there's a point I want to draw out here, which is that most of the clients that I work with individually say to me, oh yeah, of course, I'd love to lose weight. And there are many reasons why people want to lose weight.
Yeah.
But what that tells me is there is a lot of people out there who have a difficult relationship with their weight and their bodies, and acceptance is such an important point. Not judging yourself for where you are now, and certainly you never got any judgment from me, and you never will get any judgment from me. And you make it sound easy, but...
Oh, it definitely wasn't.
It
definitely wasn't. There was no part of it that's ever been easier. I tend to push through anything, and then it will like eventually reach some form of a breaking point to me. But yeah, that's definitely not easy. None of it has been a simple process. And obviously going to the gym and like not eating what I want to eat, that's also not an easy thing, even though it, in theory, is simple. All I have to do is drive to the gym, go to the gym for an hour, run or whatever, come back, eat good food.
Yeah.
I will lose weight, but it's not that easy, It's not as easy as just doing that.
Okay, I mean, that's a great message and really important for us to hear. I heard you say that maybe one of the drivers at the outset was dark thoughts, negative thoughts. At what point did that change and how did it change?
I don't think there's ever been a specific point that I could pinpoint and be like, that day is when it all changed, and from that point I've thought positively. It's still a constant battle to me now, and it's the dark thoughts or like the non-positive things still exist in my mind. It's just it's more about not focusing on them and just letting them keep on going and passing through. But what changed? It's a great question, really. I think what changed is the focus switched from just being on work all the time, which I kind of think is a bit of an escape for me, to actually focusing on some tools for myself to help with my anxiety, which is where my dark thoughts come from. Like I don't even really know any other way to explain it other than just having anxious thoughts all the time. And there's definitely an element of imposter syndrome too. Just multiple things all sort of coming together. And yeah, I struggle to find a place at what point I switched it all and changed it. I think it's more of a gradual process that...
Yeah, I mean, that makes sense.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Hey, while you're here, why don't you come and join us in the free Positive Medicine community, where like-minded people gather to follow our journey as we're evolving healthcare for humanity. Click on the link below, come to positivemedicine.com, join us today.
Okay, let's bring in the third pillar.
Yeah.
Because the connection between our psychological health and our emotional health, our relationships, is often very close.
For sure.
How has all of this impacted on your relationships?
Well, relationships, I'll use my now fiance, Amy, as an example here because, well, she's my fiance now, so it's a great point for a relationship. 4 years ago, we went through some of the roughest period in our relationship ever.
You've never told me that before.
Okay, well, there you go. There's something new for you. So it was really bad. We just felt like flatmates, or like essentially living in the same space, existing. It was awful. We didn't like it at all. And that was also when I was not in great physical health. My mental health was
Shot.
done for, even though I hit it well. And at that point as well, relationship health was also out the door, completely non-existent. And so now, move forward, there's been a lot of things that I have taken directly out of tools that you have actually presented. My list of things I love for both myself and Amy, that's been something that actually helps us both.
Yeah.
And the other one that we've actually, I don't know how else to say it other than it has fixed our problems, has been to listen to what each other have got to say, no matter what mood we're in, and then walk away, and then come back. And I can't remember what you called that one.
Well, there are two things that link together. One is the power is in the pause.
Yes.
And pausing before you go back to them so that you're not reacting, you're responding.
That's it. The reacting, not responding. That's been one of my biggest things with communication, and that's what we suffered within our relationship, was communication. Hello, Lucy.
Hello, Lucy. Fancy you coming to join us.
Oh, lovely.
Good girl, Lucy.
Well, yeah, my relationship with you's gotten a lot better too. But yeah, the reacting and responding instead, that's been the biggest change, which I've actually implemented, and I've actively implemented it in terms of being to Amy, I'm not going to respond right now. I cannot, because if I do, it's not going to be good. I need to come back to this in 10 minutes. Give me 10 minutes. And then, doesn't matter what mood we're in, sort it out, come back, and then boom, we can have a conversation about it and not an argument. And that's been a literal game changer. It sounds so advertising, I don't know, but it's a literal game changer for the relationship as well.
But I'm sure that people can relate to that. It
sure.
is. I mean, it was a game changer for me as well, that realization. And from the power is in the pause comes the other tool, which is slightly more complicated, which is there's something I've been holding back, is now a good time. And the idea of being able to say how we feel about a situation in the relationship in as unemotional a way as possible, as matter-of-fact way, as this is how I feel about the situation, but then deliberately having a pause and for the other person not to react to it straight away.
Yeah, it's... I like literally can't even explain the difference it made to our communication. It just went from pretty much being non-existent and holding a lot of things back to now just there's no doubt in my mind, and I also think there's no doubt in Amy's mind too, of like we're not holding anything back, we're just openly communicative, is that a word?
Sure.
Sure, we'll run with
Yeah.
it. We're openly in active communication about everything, and so that's another thing that hasn't necessarily happened like this. It's something that we implemented small changes into, and then now has gotten to a place where we're like, there's still issues always, and there always will be within a relationship because that's
Yes.
how they work. But
Yes.
we can work with them and through them, and we're both of full understanding of that, not like, oh, well, I'm not going to talk to her about that, you know?
No, that's great. So it's become a habit.
Yes.
You've
it
been
has.
doing it more and more
Small
until
habits
it's just
build
the
up.
way you both communicate with
Bingo.
each other. And one of my realizations fairly recently has been that the reason why this is so important, the reason it works, is that every single person deserves to be seen, to be heard, to be valued or loved, and to feel safe. And if you can create that environment in a relationship, then immediately the other person is going to relax into communication, feel seen, heard, valued, loved, and feel safe. And suddenly that just opens up a whole new level of
Well,
communication.
you bring down your defensive layer.
You do.
And
Totally.
that's what everybody always comes into a conversation with. Even like, you know, if you're a stranger, I'd still have some form of a defensive layer of what I don't want to talk about with you, you know. But since we've got a good friendship, you know, like we've got a good relationship, that defensive layer is like gone. There is
Yeah.
none. You know, I'm more
Yeah.
than happy to talk about whatever, and it
Yeah.
doesn't worry me. You know,
Yeah.
I'd be like, David, you're being a dick today. What are you doing? You know, and you could do the same for me. Like, and that's the beauty of it, because it's like, I mean, you're not being a dick. You're being great.
Yeah, but even I actually need some time, Brody. I need to take a pause. Like, can we have a break?
Let's come back to this. Yeah, we'll circle around in 10 minutes and talk about that one again.
That's, you just threw me completely. No, you haven't. No. So what that can do is to trigger our defenses.
Yes.
So we become defensive, and the ego comes to the fore, our ego defenses, and we react to what the other person's just said. And what happens when that occurs? They react back.
It's warfare.
It's warfare. That's right. You get a ding dong.
Boom, 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 boom at each other. Yeah, and then
Yeah.
it never resolves itself.
So the great message from this is that if you're in a relationship, you can't change the other person.
No.
You can only change your own behavior. You can only change your own reaction to a response.
Yeah.
But if you do that, actually, the other person has nowhere to go. You can actually diffuse their anger, their triggers, and suddenly you start to form a new of relating.
Yeah, if you try and fight fire with fire,
Yeah.
it just
Yeah.
burns more.
Yeah.
Whereas if you just,
Yeah,
if
it's
you just fight
lose-lose.
fire with like a brick wall, it's going to deplete eventually, you know? It's like, just give it a moment, let it relax, and then assess it.
Okay. Okay, so so you've been with Amy throughout this whole 4-year period,
Yes.
and she is now your fiance, so you're doing something right.
Oh, hopefully, yeah.
Yeah.
I'd say so.
Let's go to the fourth pillar. Let's
Okay.
go to spiritual health.
Cool.
What did you think to that when you first heard it?
I feel like it was I'm not like I don't even know what I am. That's the funny thing, but we'll get there. When I first heard it, I was like, great, we're going to talk about this now. I realize this is going to get a little bit
Bit
like,
heavy.
yeah, a little bit like, oh, really? Like, okay, what are we going to talk about here? And the more that we dove into it, the more that I was like, oh, actually, this isn't everything that I thought it was going to be. This is like, it's not this. You need to go and follow God. Like,
That's right.
Like,
It's not religion.
It's not
it's
religious.
not Bible bashing.
No, and it wasn't like this is what you need to do. And that's
No.
the thing with everything. None of this is what you need to do.
No.
This is how I can help you.
This
Which
is
is
how
great.
I can help you find what it is that
Yes.
you need
Yes.
to do.
And so the same, and I'm still very much so developing that spiritual side of things, the spiritual health. And I'm still in a place of not really knowing where I sit with it all. And that's perfectly fine. I'm accepting of that. You know, I'm not like,
Yeah.
if I don't figure this out today, there's going to be issues. Instead, I'm just, I think starting off, I was skeptical of it. Then I became aware that, you know, I do have thoughts and beliefs. And what does that mean? Where does it come from? And then you start to figure out yourself and what you yourself actually think and feel. And I'm kind of, yeah, I don't know. I feel like where I sat before was in a place of this is what I believe, and like for me, God is a part of it, and like I am in terms religious, but I also wouldn't say that I'm a part of a religion. And we have talked about it in the past too, where we've said, you know, I don't necessarily align with, say, Christianity, but I might believe like in God. And so like these things and like these findings are still a part of, but have been a part of like my spiritual health journey, and being like, okay, well, if I believe in God, that means I'm a Christian. I don't want to be a Christian, so what does that mean? You know, like bringing them
So,
apart.
what you're doing is asking yourself questions.
Yes.
And that is so important. Right, spiritual health is the health of the spirit.
Yes.
It's the health of the essence of who we are. And it's the journey to exploring who we are and how we relate to each other, how we relate to the earth and the place where we live, and how we relate to this concept of something beyond us. Call it what you like. We don't need to call it God.
For sure.
Source, universe. The thing is, if we could actually describe it, if we could name it and describe it, then actually the journey's over. And for some people, it is. For some people who have a religion, it is really clearly defined, and that's what they believe, and that's fine too. I'm with you. I am still on the journey of working out what my belief system is. And I think about it a lot.
I think about it a lot too, especially when I'm like outside, like similar to you, David. When I'm outside in nature, that's like my time with myself. For me, I love it. It's on my list of things I love. But I enjoy being out there, and that is also when I feel most connected to the earth. And then that's also when my mind is like the most open, and I guess you could say my spirit's almost the most open to like consideration of things. And so yeah, I would definitely say I think about it like daily, but I also don't have any thought or expectation of being like, I'm going to have this figured out by the year 2025. I'm just like, I'm going to figure this out maybe one day, otherwise I'm just going to keep on figuring it out. And like most things I've found, there's no end point. You know, there's no set.
There is.
I've made it.
Yeah.
It's like,
Yeah.
finally. It's like,
Yes.
same with my body. There's never going to be a set point where I've been like, oh my God, I've finally got the body that I was working towards. I might hit a goal or two, which is great. Congratulations. But I'm never going to like find a point where I'm there at it.
There is something else called the passage of time. So you might hit a point that you want to be at a certain point in time, but I guarantee that in 10 years from that point, your whole life will be different and you will have different challenges.
Yeah.
And that's why it's so important to see life as a journey. And we never actually do get there. And this is all about how we get the most out of life, how we get the most out of what we're here to do, what brings us meaning and purpose.
Yeah.
And most importantly, how we impact on the lives of other people. I don't know if you recall that I see us having one overall purpose that we all share, which is to experience life joyfully and to help others experience life joyfully too.
Yeah.
And hey, who knows? That's just the idea I came up with, but it works pretty well for me.
And I think the thought of helping other people is going to be like, at the end of the day, it's the most fulfilling thing you can do. You know.
Yeah.
I run, I run a YouTube channel where I help people get into drones and stuff. And reading comments where people are saying, you've helped me out so much, like this and that. And these are just written comments, let alone meeting people in person. That's fulfilling, like, my purpose,
Of course it is.
why I'm actually even here for, any reason. I'm like, damn, like, maybe I'm just helping out in a small way, but that's a cool thing to do.
It is.
So yeah, I think
It is.
I am very much so on the exact same path or the same thought process of, experience it for yourself. Otherwise, what's the point, right? And then help others experience it because you know how good experiencing it yourself is. So
Yeah. So if your purpose right now is to help people with drone photography, then that's fantastic.
Absolutely.
In 10 years' time, it will be different.
For sure.
20 years' time, 30 years' time.
You can put it in the process of 5 years' time. 5 years ago, I was not living down in Central. I was up north in Auckland. I was working at a gas station, trying to start a business up there, which wasn't working out. I had very different problems then than I do right now. Completely different. And also completely different positives as well, Like different benefits, different negatives, different places, and that was 5 years. So I can't even fathom what 10 years is really going to be like. Completely different place.
Yeah.
Who knows where I'll be?
Yeah.
Could be your next door neighbor. I might build on that section of land out the back there.
So what we're hearing is that life is constantly changing.
Oh yeah.
However, we have a framework. We have the 4 pillars of health. And within those 4 pillars are encompassed the whole of life.
Yeah.
And we have the tools to start to get the most out of life. So that framework and those tools and the application of those is the fixed point in all of this. As we go through this journey of life, at least we have a way to consciously get the most out of life.
Absolutely.
And I know that you are sucking the juice out of life all the time.
You gotta. It's all about the experiences.
It is.
But yeah, no, I agree with your framework. The framework is the only solid point of reference that you can kind of almost make sense of things, organize things. I'm a very organizational person, so having these 4 pillars that I can put certain elements into and then also work on certain elements is much more helpful than just being like, my life is screwed. I need to fix it all, It's like, okay, well, actually, hold on a second.
Yeah.
That probably needs fixing there, or maybe not fixing is not the right word.
When was the last time you thought my life is screwed?
Start of this year, when I had a massive anxiety attack and it threw me out for 3 weeks over Christmas.
What?
Yeah, that was the last time I thought my life was screwed. I was like, none of it's worth it. I don't understand. Like, this sucks. And then I worked through it. And now I'm here, and we're, 5 months after, and I think life's worth it again. It's good.
Good. Pleased to hear that.
I'm quite happy to be here.
Yeah. So your life isn't perfect.
No.
Guess what?
Yours isn't
my
too.
life isn't perfect either. The last time I thought my life is screwed was probably 4 o'clock this morning.
Oh, nice.
That's normally when those thoughts hit me.
Every morning.
No, not every morning,
not
thankfully.
even just this morning.
No.
You thought you were talking with me today, so you're like, oh
no.
my life is screwed.
Not Brody again.
Not again. I've got to sit down in a room with him. Jeepers. No.
Actually, Brody, I love our time together.
It's great.
I love spending time with you.
This has been great.
And for me, it's been an enormous help having you on the other side of the camera.
Well, I can say vice versa too.
Well, you do help to bring out the best in me because you make it so easy. So I do actually just want to say a huge thank you for everything you've done for me and Positive Medicine over the last 4 years, and looking forward to the next 4 or 10 except we can't predict.
Oh, we can't.
No.
Oh well. Let's just predict the next day.
Yeah.
I look forward to tomorrow.
Yeah, me too. Yeah. Oh, not 4 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah, not 4 o'clock in the morning though.
No.
When you're going to do another podcast. But
Brody,
thank you, David.
thank
Appreciate
you.
your time.
Fantastic to see you. See you soon.
See you soon.
I hope you enjoyed the episode. I know I did. You want to hear more? Come and join us for the next episode here.